My name is Regina Lee, and I was 28 years old when my family decided I was the villain for finally saying no. Before anyone jumps to conclusions, you need the full context, because this wasn't a sudden outburst or a single argument. This was years of pressure, favoritism, and quiet resentment piling up until something finally broke. I grew up in a house where stress lived permanently in the walls. When I was 12, my father walked out without warning. No goodbye, no explanation, just a hollow space where stability used to be. Overnight, my mom was left with 3 kids, mounting debt, and the impossible task of holding everything together. I was the oldest. Then there was my younger sister, Lena, 2 years behind me, and my brother, Evan, 4 years younger. While my mom worked double shifts just to keep food on the table, I learned early that survival meant pulling my own weight. I got my first job at 14, landscaping, warehouses, moving furniture, anything that paid. In high school, I was that kid clocking weekend shifts while everyone else went to parties. I taught myself construction basics from scratch. No mentor, no shortcuts, just grit, late nights, and YouTube tutorials. College took me 6 long years because I paid for every class myself. Tuition, books, certification exams, all while working full-time. I lived on ramen and peanut butter, drove a 2004 Camry that broke down monthly, and skipped everything that resembled fun. There were no student loans because I couldn't qualify. No family help because there was nothing to give, at least not to me. Because somehow there was always money for Lena. She never held a real job, not once. She bounced between boyfriends, friends' couches, and vague opportunities. She called herself an influencer with a few thousand followers and a sense of entitlement that made my teeth clench. Bills were optional. Responsibility was theoretical. My brother Evan wasn't malicious, but he was endlessly enabled. He changed majors like outfits, dropped classes whenever things got hard, and somehow my mom always covered the fallout. Tuition, rent, car payments, groceries, everything. The message was clear, even if no one said it out loud. I was the responsible one, so I didn't need help. They were the screw-ups, so they deserved it. 3 months before everything imploded, I finally bought my house. Not a starter apartment, not a cramped condo, a real house. 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, a 2-car garage, a basement workshop where I could breathe. I saved $55,000 for the down payment over 4 years of living like a monk. The mortgage was manageable, the space was mine. It was my sanctuary. At the housewarming barbecue, the reactions said everything. My mom kept calling me lucky, like this life had fallen into my lap instead of being carved out with exhaustion. Lena spent the entire afternoon taking selfies in different rooms, asking if she could borrow the space for photo shoots. Evan barely looked up from my TV. That should have been my warning. 7 weeks later, Lena's life exploded. Again. She got kicked out. No friends left. No boyfriend willing to keep her. Nowhere to go. That's when she called me. Her voice was syrupy, practiced. "Reg," she said softly, "I'm in a really bad spot. I just need somewhere to crash for a couple weeks while I get back on my feet." I didn't hesitate. "No." She cried. She accused me of being heartless. She reminded me we were family. Then my mom called. I said no again. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. I came home that Tuesday night, exhausted, in the bone-deep way only a 14-hour day can give you. It was just after 6:45 p.m. I remember because I'd been counting the minutes all afternoon, picturing the quiet of my house, the silence, the order, the sense of control I'd fought so hard to earn. The first thing that felt wrong was my driveway. My front porch light was on. I never left it on. Then I noticed the door. Unlocked. My stomach dropped instantly. I was obsessive about locking that door. Always had been. Growing up poor teaches you to double-check everything. Money, safety, boundaries. The second I stepped inside, unfamiliar smells hit me. Sweet takeout sauce, perfume, something floral and artificial that didn't belong in my house. And then I heard it. Footsteps upstairs. I moved slowly, heart pounding, every muscle tense. When I reached the living room, my worst fear materialized right in front of me. Lena was sprawled across my leather couch like she owned it. Tiny shorts, crop top, feet on my coffee table. She was casually painting her nails bright pink while Netflix played on my 70-inch TV. Takeout containers were scattered everywhere. Makeup covered my counters. Her clothes were draped over my furniture like she'd been there for days. "Hey, Reg," she chirped without even looking up. "Hope you don't mind. I ordered Thai food. Got you pad Thai, too. It's in the kitchen." I couldn't breathe. "What?" I said slowly. "Are you doing in my house?" "Oh," she said, finally glancing at me. "Mom gave me your spare key. She figured you'd come around once you saw how much I needed this place." I walked into the kitchen and nearly lost it. My meal prep? Gone. Granite countertops buried under makeup palettes and hair tools. Dirty dishes everywhere. Containers tossed like trash. But upstairs was worse. She had taken over my workshop storage room, the one place I kept everything organized, everything sacred. My tools were shoved into corners. Vintage motorcycle parts I'd inherited from my grandfather were tossed into random boxes. Her ring light sat right in the middle of my workbench like a declaration of war. I stormed back downstairs. "Get out," I said. "Right now." She sighed dramatically. "God, relax. It's temporary. A few weeks max." "I already told you no." "I didn't break in," she snapped. "Mom gave me the key. That makes it legal." "Mom doesn't live here," I said, shaking. "She has zero authority over this house." She rolled her eyes. "You're being dramatic. I'll help with bills and cleaning." "You don't have a job." "I have opportunities," she shot back. "Modeling. Devin might take me back." That's when I saw my fridge. Empty. Almost everything I'd bought for the week. Gone. "Pack your stuff," I said. "Now." "I'm not leaving," she said calmly. "Mom said I could stay." That's when I pulled out my phone. "If you don't leave immediately," I said, "I'm calling the police." She laughed. "You're not calling the cops on your own sister." I dialed anyway. When the officers arrived, she tried crying, tried lying, tried playing victim. They asked for proof she lived there. She had none. They told her to leave or be arrested. It took 2 hours. On her way out, she leaned close and whispered, "You're going to regret this." Then she keyed my truck. The next morning, I changed every lock and installed cameras everywhere. That should have been enough. It wasn't. The fallout was immediate and vicious. That same night, my phone started vibrating nonstop. Missed calls, voicemails, texts stacking on top of each other so fast I couldn't read them in real time. My mom was screaming in every message. "How could you do this to your own sister? You humiliated her. You traumatized her. You've destroyed this family." According to Lena's version of events, I'd flown into a rage for no reason, threatened her, and called the police on an innocent, helpless girl who was just visiting. She conveniently left out the part about breaking into my house, or trashing it, or refusing to leave. By the next morning, the extended family had been looped in. Aunts, uncles, cousins I barely spoke to anymore. They all had opinions. "You've changed, Regina. Money really does make people cold. Your father would be ashamed of you." I blocked numbers, muted group chats, focused on work. I told myself it would blow over once the drama died down. It didn't even come close. 4 nights later, I got home just after 7 p.m. and noticed my side gate hanging crooked, the lock bent and useless. My stomach dropped. I ran straight to the basement. My workshop was destroyed. Drawers ripped open, shelves emptied, pegboards stripped bare. The air felt wrong, too empty, too quiet. Thousands of dollars worth of tools were gone. The vintage motorcycle parts my grandfather had given me, the ones I could never replace, were missing. I sat on the floor and stared at the damage, my hands shaking. Then I remembered the cameras. The footage was crystal clear. At 1:32 a.m., Lena appeared on screen with a man beside her. Devin. They moved with purpose, no panic, no hesitation. They knew exactly what they were looking for and where to find it. Toolboxes loaded into a pickup, boxes passed hand to hand. My life packed up like loot. I called the police and pressed charges immediately. When they arrested Lena 6 hours later, she claimed she was just taking what she was owed because I'd ruined her life. Both of them were charged with multiple felonies. She spent 3 nights in county jail before my mom somehow scraped together bail money she absolutely did not have. That's when the family war truly exploded. My mom went nuclear, calling everyone, crying, twisting the story into something unrecognizable. Suddenly, I wasn't just cold. I was cruel, vindictive, a monster who sent her own sister to jail. Evan blocked me on everything and posted a vague but pointed rant online about how blood meant nothing to some people. Relatives who hadn't offered Lena a couch suddenly had endless opinions about my boundaries. So I disappeared. I changed my number, focused on rebuilding my workshop, started going to the gym after work just to burn off the rage. And for the first time in years, my life was quiet, peaceful. That's when I met Daniel, a normal, steady man with his own career and zero tolerance for chaos. He didn't push, he didn't pry, he just listened. For 10 weeks, the family went silent. I thought it was over. I was wrong again. The silence broke at 11:07 p.m. on a Thursday. I remember the time because I was half asleep on my couch, Daniel already gone for the night, my house finally feeling like home again. My phone lit up with an unfamiliar number. I almost didn't answer. Something made me pick up. Reg. Evan's voice sounded hollow, older, worn down. I really need help. I stayed quiet, letting him talk. Everything's falling apart, he said. I've got nowhere to go. Over the next 20 minutes, the truth spilled out in fragments. Mom was broke, completely broke. After bailing Lena out, paying lawyers, and covering Evan's life for years, there was nothing left. Credit cards maxed, bills past due, the tuition payments stopped. Evan had been kicked out of school. His car was repossessed. His apartment eviction notice was taped to the door. He'd finally gotten a job, Target, part-time, barely enough for gas. I'm about to be homeless, he said quietly. I closed my eyes. What about Mom's place? Richard moved out, he admitted. He couldn't handle the chaos anymore, and there's no room. What about Lena? A long pause. She's not okay, he said. She's been staying with Devin, but his parents banned them both. They were squatting in an abandoned house. I almost laughed at the irony. Evan hesitated. I know I turned on you. I shouldn't have believed her. I didn't think you'd really abandon us. You called me heartless, I said. You compared me to Dad. I was wrong, he whispered. I didn't know everything. He begged, promised rent, cleanliness, boundaries. I told him I'd think about it. I didn't call him back. A week later, I learned why Lena had gone quiet. Daniel and I were celebrating my promotion at a downtown steakhouse when I spotted my cousin Darren sitting alone at the bar. He looked awful, thinner, hollow-eyed. He approached our table, shame written all over his face. I owe you an apology, he said, a massive one. Lena had stayed with him. She stole his PlayStation, his girlfriend's jewelry, cash from his roommate. Then came the worst part. She's been using your name, Darren said, applying for credit cards, listing your address. Suddenly, the strange mail made sense. And then he dropped the final bomb. She robbed Grandma. My blood ran cold. Lena had convinced our 87-year-old grandmother there was a medical emergency. Took $750 in cash, probably her entire monthly budget. She got arrested again, Darren said. Shoplifting, drugs. She listed you as her emergency contact. The family was collapsing, and now they were all calling me. Mom, Evan, relatives who'd called me a monster, they all wanted the same thing. Money. The calls didn't stop after that. They multiplied. Every voicemail followed the same script. Apologies wrapped in desperation, regret soaked in panic. People who hadn't spoken to me in months, even years, suddenly remembered my number. My mom's call was the hardest to listen to. She didn't start with excuses this time. She cried. Really cried. The kind of broken sobbing that sounds like someone realizing too late that the ground is gone beneath them. "I know I chose wrong," she said. "I know I enabled her. I know I hurt you over and over. But I can't lose this house, Regina. It's all I have left." She'd refinanced everything to pay Lena's bail and legal fees. Now she was 3 months behind on the mortgage. Foreclosure loomed in 6 weeks unless she came up with $8,000. Evan's call came next. He was living in his car, showering at a 24-hour gym, working 2 jobs just to eat. He promised contracts, interest, anything. The extended family was almost surreal. Uncle Harold, who'd lectured me endlessly about family loyalty, now needed help with his own bills after loaning Lena money she never repaid. Darren needed help replacing what she stole. Everyone had been burned. They all finally understood. Lena wasn't unlucky. She was destructive. For 2 weeks straight, I listened to every message, read every text, and then I deleted them, one by one, without responding. The most satisfying call came the following morning. "Reg," Evan said, his voice steady for the first time in months. "Lena's been sentenced." She pled guilty to multiple charges: breaking and entering, theft, fraud, robbing an elderly woman. The judge gave her 14 months in state prison, plus community service and full restitution. "She's where she belongs," Evan said quietly. Mom was still facing foreclosure. Evan had found a tiny room to rent. He was finally paying his own way. "I don't expect forgiveness," he said, "but I'm trying." "I forgave you a long time ago," I told him. "I just don't trust you yet." That trust would have to be earned. Today I'm sitting in my rebuilt workshop, every tool replaced, every boundary reinforced. The house is quiet, safe. Lena is in prison, and for the first time in my life, I'm free.